Hello, folks. Well, welcome to yet another episode of the Disruption Talks, where we invite top experts to discuss digital acceleration, winning strategies, innovation, and scaling products. My name is Barbara, and I'm a business development lead here at Netguru, and it is my great pleasure to host the co-founder of Airalo, Ahmet Bahadir Ozdemir. Welcome.
Hey, Barbara. Hi, everyone.
How are you today, Bahadir?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's a beautiful day in Dubai, and I've just moved to Dubai, so I'm settling here slowly. But I'm pretty good. I'm feeling good these days. How about you? How are things?
Okay, that's brilliant. Well, I envy you because I'm currently in Spain, but unfortunately it is super gloomy today, which is not typical for this country. So you can send some sun here and to Poland as well. Okay, so I'm familiar with Airalo because I had a pleasure of using it a couple of times. And I did it mainly when I was traveling, when I was on business trips. And I think that some people here in the audience today may not have had the opportunity to use it yet, or may not know the concept super well. So could you kick us off by explaining what cool stuff Airalo can do, and also introducing yourself?
Sure. Well, I can directly go into introduction to eSIM 101. I do this because there's still a lot of education that needs to be done regarding eSIMs. But just to give an overall idea, what an eSIM is, how it works, and where we are positioning Airalo in this whole game, I can actually take you through this very simply. So I think it was 2018 September. Apple decided to first ship the first eSIM compatible phones. So this was iPhone X, XS Max, and XR. And the whole idea is pretty basic, actually. So your phone, it still has its physical SIM card slot. That's still there. That's for your primary SIM card, the physical SIM card that you are using from your home telco. Now, these next generation smartphones, they come with an embedded SIM card in them. And that is actually your secondary SIM card. Now, many people think eSIM stands for electronic SIM. It actually stands for embedded SIM, which is the embedded SIM card in your phone. Now, the whole idea of this embedded SIM card is it's an empty SIM card. It's an empty programmable SIM card that can actually be programmed with any telecom company's profile. That's one good thing. So it is waiting to be loaded with a telco's profile. And another good thing about this embedded SIM card, which is going to be your secondary SIM card, is it can hold up to 5 to 8 telecom company profiles. So it actually gives you the freedom to have many telcos loaded in your phone. So when hardware became ready, when this technology became available, we had a very simple idea, and we simply said, okay, now that there are programmable SIM cards inside every phone, every next generation smartphone that is coming up, the eSIM, the embedded SIM hardware side is ready, but where are the eSIMs actually? If I'm a traveler, if I'm going to United States, where is the T-Mobile eSIM? If I'm going to Japan, how do I get the SoftBank eSIM? If I'm going to Chile, where is the Telefonica eSIM? So we wanted to answer this very simple question. So what we did with Airalo is we created world's biggest aggregator of eSIMs, which enables you to choose your country, choose your eSIM, and install it under 1 minute, so that when you land in a country, you will have connectivity like a local instantly. That was pretty much the idea behind Airalo.
Well, you mentioned a lot of the times that it was a simple question answered with a simple idea. Well, I love the simplicity, I have to say, and it's extremely convenient because indeed, the moment you land, you can actually use the internet, which saves a lot of hassle, and I experienced it. So thank you very much for explaining that concept first. And what about you? I mean, what about you as a co-founder at Airalo? How does your day look like? What is the scope of your responsibilities?
Well, when you first start a company, so just for context, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. This is not a statement I put out there to say something like, oh, he's a college dropout. it's just a fact that I'm sharing. I am a college dropout, so I'm officially a high school grad. And what I found myself in, as far as I remember, I think since 18 years old, is a constant state of hustle. So I've been working and building lifestyle companies. So I actually never worked in another company. Uh, I never had a CV. These are just facts. These are not, oh, I never had a CV, but these are just facts. Uh, and basically, as an entrepreneur, what I was always motivated to do is find a niche idea, find a good idea, and then execute it. I love building companies. I love finding an idea that may look niche and that might actually be questioned, like is it really necessary or not? And then I actually love the whole hustle of turning it into a reality and turning it into something that actually people like to use. So when you are starting a startup, which is also in the first days with Airalo, as a CEO, you simply do everything. And when I say everything, I really mean everything. You design the first mock-up. You decide where the buttons should be on that product. You try to come up with the first MVP, and then you do the customer support. You do the design. You do the marketing. You are the person managing Facebook. You are the person managing the display ads. For some time, you have to be the doer for everything that is necessary to take an idea off the ground. So I guess for every CEO, every founder, this is how the journey starts. And then at some point, when things start getting bigger, you realize your job actually becomes to find amazing people and get out of their way. That really is, I think, a CEO's job. You find amazing people and then you just get out of their way. And what I find myself doing as a CEO, as a founder now is, how can I attract the best talent to this company? How can I think, you start thinking about 10 high impact things that might actually impact the revenue in a big way, that might impact your gross margin in a big way. So you find yourself always thinking about how I can do these things. My job at some point becomes to create a very safe space financially, especially financially, so that 95 other people in the company gets to experiment. And I find this very important because as a startup, your biggest challenge is always constantly counting the months of runway. You are not established as a corporate. You have the concept of runway. So, you hear startups saying we have 11 months runway, we have 15 months runway, we have 16 months runway. So your full-time job becomes, how do I make that runway longer, and how do I actually come up with the ideas, come up with the negotiations, come up with the decisions that can turn this company into a profitable company, so that these amazing people who are much smarter than you has this very safe space of experimenting and taking the company to the further heights. That I find my job these days lately, just finding the right ideas, executing the right ideas, and talking to investors, constantly always talking to investors, and always going for our next round of fundraising. Hope this gives you an answer.
Well, yeah, it does, certainly. And I understand that people definitely is one of your metrics of success from what you just mentioned. Although I regret that if I call your customer support, I'm not going to be speaking to you these days. What other metrics of success do you see as a CEO?
As cliche as some of these might sound, way before when I first started my first company, there was a mentor. I think I was 19 years old, and I was doing a lot of fancy things, for the company. The best slideshows I was preparing, the best business cards, a lot of fancy details I was going into, and it was so simple. But when he told me, Bahadir, the only North Star metric you need to have because this is business 101, is your cash flow. Then you get to go into all the fancy things that you want to get into. So I think I see also personally, I see one of the most important metrics these days, because now we are getting big, is that our unit economics have to be very healthy on a gross margin level, on a revenue level, on an average order value level, on a customer acquisition level, the costs of acquiring customers, and the contribution margins. This is one important side, because I like to think being obsessed with your unit economics, metric by metric within the product, within that revenue, and what's happening, part in that revenue. I think this should be every CEO's obsession, because eventually the health of those unit economics enable everything else in the company to function properly. And another metric I really care about, and because these eventually always go hand to hand, is having good people in the company and making sure they are really enabled. Making sure, we like to do our EMPS survey very soon. We because we've just got into this much bigger company phase now. But I think understanding that people are actually happy, people are actually still feel the ownership of what they are doing, and we are not creating wrong procedures internally, which affects the happiness of employees. I think that also becomes another obsession internally. So people and revenue, I think as a CEO, I have to take most seriously, because when all those things happen, the side effect also becomes very happy customers that are being given the best version of us, because internally we have created this safe and sound environment from a unit economic perspective and from people perspective, and now we can, as a company and people, provide our best version to everyone that is trying to use Airalo.
Okay, happy people, happy customers, and good revenue.
Good revenue.
Magic. Yes. That's the magic.
Besides good revenue, I think what every startup, and again, my advisors are mostly startup based. There might be people here, working in much bigger corporates. I'm sure they've already solved these problems. But when you are on a startup level, more than revenue itself, it's the health of unit economics. You have to obsess with them. You have to obsess with margins and your customer acquisition cost, because one thing founders do is they are just happy that everything is coming together. And then they actually decide, let me take a look at our P&L, like what's happening on our profit and loss. And that's when they realize, oh, I just spent $10 to make $1. That's not sustainable. That's not going to take me forever. But it takes a long time because we are not born with these skills. So it takes some time for founders to realize that some of the metrics are actually vanity metrics, and when they go deep in, there are really things that they need to fix if they want to scale more. So you stop your scaling, you go back to square one, and you start fixing everything that you can fix. Then you feel confident. I call it operation perfection. Once you feel that, once you feel the love internally, once you feel like, okay, this is working, this is healthy, internally we have fixed so many things, now we can go out there and shout out to the world that Airalo exists. But before that, you really want to stop. You don't want to go out there with a feeling that is not content enough. You don't want to go out there and tell people about your product before you don't feel confident and content enough internally. So yeah, more than revenue, I think it's just the overall unit economics that has to be healthy in a startup.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you very much for explaining that as well. And so you mentioned something important, that you were not born with these skills. And I'm just wondering, so what was your way to where you are right now? I mean, from the college until this day. Yeah.
I think two things. First, survival instinct is a very strong instinct. It is.
Okay.
I think it's an unmatched instinct. It was always there for me naturally, whether I like it or not. As long as I remember, I had this survival instinct for a very long time. And I know this is gonna sound off, but uh, actually, ignorance
Okay.
takes you far, because one thing I realized that made my businesses work, and now even when I was building Airalo, when you are not deeply involved in an industry, it actually gives you this ability to learn everything from scratch. And when you are learning from scratch, because you don't get blindsided with too much confident information that you know it all, it gives you this experimental bed. It gives you this ability to actually think outside the box. The easiest way to say this is this.
Yeah.
When I have this very dumb example, I would say. Right now I'm sitting on a chair. The industry has been creating chairs. And think of it from a telco perspective. When they want to change things, or when new things needs to be there, they are still thinking, and this is for every industry, they just think about how to change the features of a chair, or how to make a better chair. But when you don't know the industry, and when you are deep diving from zero, from scratch, you don't see a chair. I'm just seeing a Ahmet holder. That's what I look at this. This is an Ahmet holder. So the question becomes, how do I make a better Ahmet holder? Because then you forget the whole concept that it's a chair. And when you forget that, it actually creates a parallel thinking. It actually creates you the opportunity to have a parallel thinking where you are not distracted by the industry, its own insights. Because now you are treating the whole startup, whole business as something that you are building from scratch. And as an average Joe, how should this product work that it will make me happy as an average user, as an average Joe? And again, I think that ignorance, that not being deeply involved in any industry, always gave me the opportunity to kind of become this outside observer and see, I think they should be like this. As an average user, I like it to be like this. And that is always been to my advantage, even with Airalo. One very simple thing we did with Airalo, when we started, we said, people hate the word roaming. I'm sorry, but they don't like the word roaming. But when you are from the industry, and we've seen these eSIM apps, everyone was using buy a Brazil roaming package, buy a Romania roaming package. There's such a new opportunity to introduce something to the world, and yet we are still, because when you are from the industry, the only word you know is roaming, and you still find yourself using best eSIM app, buy a Brazil roaming package. And I told the team, we will not use the word roaming. We will not call our packages roaming packages. If you go to Airalo, you will see that all of them have IKEA type names. Like we actually like to call them with creative, fun, joyful names. And again, this again comes because I'm an outsider, and the word roaming scares me, but the industry doesn't really understand that. So they keep using the word roaming package, but we say, wait, the word roaming scares me. So I'm just gonna call this joy, and I'm just gonna call this peace. I'm going to call this love. I'm going to call this eSIM name hug. Why not? And I think that design choice actually made Airalo look different, sound different than other roaming products out there. Hope this gives some sort of an idea.
It does, definitely. Thank you very much as well. And I think you also mentioned a very important thing about this survival instinct that you have. And I think it sets us very well for the next thing that I wanted to ask you. Because when you're looking at 2022, which definitely was not a very easy year, right? Industry-wise, economic-wise, and etc. So when you're looking at this past year, what are the things that you were proud of the most?
Well, I think when it comes to the things that make us proud, and I don't think I can say anything on top of that. It's the impact that we started making on with some of the initiatives that we want to do. And this is when me and my co-founder, when we sit down, when we think about, what should we do that actually contributes to the society. So we've come up with a couple of initiatives. I think one of the initiatives that we are proud of is we've created an internal fund, and when you are an employee joining Airalo, we sponsor one kid around the world under your name. So if we have 100 employees, we sponsor 100 kids. And that actually gives us so much happiness. These are kids in Ecuador, these are kids in Honduras, these are kids in India, Filipino, with such tough living conditions, some without families. And I really like to think that it's like a butterfly effect. What they have today is going to make the difference of these kids being awesome doctors, awesome software engineers, awesome founders in the future, versus somehow being on the streets and maybe doing things that we wouldn't want them to do. So we want to touch their lives at this point where we can do financially our part. So these kids, we will be sponsoring them until they are 18 years old. We are taking care of their like monthly needs and these type of things. I think that really makes us proud, because we do believe in, every founder, when they are asked what's your motivation, the first thing, like a B2 pageant, we like to say, I want to change the world. Like this is like every founder's cliche B2 pageant. I want to change the world. One thing I'm really sure that changing the world itself is a very vague statement. But what we believe is we can change one man's world, and we take that very seriously. Changing the world, no, the problem of evil is just too big. There are too many problems. Changing the world itself is a very vague statement, and you will end up doing nothing. But if you actually decide to change one man's world, one person's world, I think that is more doable, and that's a more realistic goal, and that's something we want to do. So that is one of the things that I'm really proud of. Another one we started is we are now building water wells in African countries. We've already built 2 water wells, and that is actually some of the things that, again, we are very proud of, because there are people, something as simple as water that we take for granted, it is such an important need in some of those villages in Africa that they actually have to walk 10 miles to get a bucket of clean water and then bring it back to their village, back to their homes. Now we are drilling water wells in the middle of those villages, and 2 of them actually are live now and giving clean water to all these families, 500 people in one village and 500 people in another village. That's also one of the things that really makes us proud. And I want to touch on the last thing. One thing we started realizing is, first I was thinking, we are giving eSIM, we are giving connectivity. It was a more straightforward thought for me. But lately what we are realizing is the connectivity, some of the people who are using this connectivity, again, that we are taking for granted, are some of these stories. I remember one mother reaching out to us, and she sent us an email. She said she had to leave the country. Her husband is still in the country. He had to stay there. And thanks to Airalo, she wrote, I was able to arrange my train in Poland. I was able to arrange my hotel in, like, you guys gave me life in Poland so that I didn't feel lost, because I had to leave suddenly and I didn't feel lost in that country. And then we started thinking about this impact, people that are actually using us. We received another email from a refugee from Afghanistan. She said, I'm in Germany right now, and because of Airalo, I'm tethering connectivity to my friends and families around me. So in this camp in Germany, we are using Airalo to stay connected with the world. And that started really hitting us. Like, man, we didn't know we had this impact. We didn't know the connectivity we provide is actually enabling such moments for people. So I think these things, when we are seeing how we are touching people's lives, knowingly and not knowingly, these has been our most proud moments. I would say in the last year.
Wow, these were truly fascinating. Thank you for sharing these.
Thank
Really
you.
inspiring.
Thank you so much.
And well, I'm curious to hear, after hearing all that, what are your plans for the next year then? Definitely continuing, but then if you could elaborate on that.
I think we definitely want to continue, the social impact that we are trying to create, but make it much bigger. 100 kids today, hopefully 1,000 kids tomorrow. 2 water wells today, hopefully 100 water wells tomorrow. So the social impact we really, really want to continue. And from a business perspective, of course, we still have the business ambitions. I have investors that I'm responsible for. I think from a business perspective, where we see Airalo going is eventually becoming more and more a default product to connect. We want to enter more people's lives, and there are 1 billion travelers worldwide every year. I think we want 10% of them at least to become Airalo users in the next couple of years. We really would love tens of millions of people to see Airalo as the tool that gives them a peace of mind when they are traveling. I got Airalo, I'm connected, I don't need to worry about anymore. We want to create this peace of mind for tens of millions of people in the next couple of years. So yeah, growth in business and growth in social impact. I think we really want to continue this.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think it also will smoothly move us to the next thing that I wanted to discuss with you, because when entering your LinkedIn profile, we actually can read this description, and I'm going to just read it out loud so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. So it says, "Do unto all men as you would wish to have done unto you, and reject for others what you would reject for yourself." And I think you already mentioned the initiatives that you took last year and that you're planning to still continue doing them and even expand them. And I think it makes a very nice connection. But how other than that, can this also be applied to your day-to-day job? How do you live up to this value?
I think if you could live by that, you will have a perfect world. Like the world will be such a happy place. And I'm also guilty of not being able to apply it as much as I want to. Sometimes you get stuck in these conditions, in these external situations where you feel like I am not being my real self. And I wish I could get more freedom. I could get into I could put myself in a situation where I can actually apply this more than I want. But I think I'm trying to do this, as much as in personal life and in business. And in business, I think there are 2 parts where we can apply this. First, it's your relation with all your colleagues in the company. I want to be the CEO that I wish I had if I was in a company. Someone that really appreciates my efforts, but someone who also knows how to let go my mistakes. Someone who empowers me to learn from my wrongdoings. Someone who doesn't publicly shame me. Someone who doesn't make me feel bad constantly. Someone who actually understands that mistakes happen. We are all human. As long as we learn from it together, collectively, we will come out of it stronger. So I think that is how I'm trying to apply. How would I want my CEO to treat me as a person? That's how I really like to treat people. Sometimes I might look like a soft leader, but I guess I don't care. Like the content feeling of trying to be a nicer version of me instead of being a very strict of version of me for the sake of business feels much better for me, and I'll take it personally. Also from a customer perspective, we always tell the team, be very generous. Customers almost make the customers ask, what's the catch? Why are you guys so generous? Why did you just give this air money back to me? Why did you just refund me so properly? Are you not gonna ask 10 core questions? Because we do feel this is actually what creates a virality for products. When people enjoy your customer support, they go back, they tell others. And customer support is that place where, you know, it breaks or makes. Like, this is the point. If hopefully, if you couldn't keep them here, if somehow they are here now, in the customer support level, this is where you are going to lose them forever, or you are going to keep them forever. So we really want to apply that philosophy there. Be generous, be nice, be very human. They are frustrated, they are angry. Do not take it personally, and do your best to make them smile at the end of this conversation. So I think this is how we can apply maybe some of these. How would I want to be treated as a customer by a telco, by a bank, by any other app? This is how we are trying to treat our customers.
Okay.
Do we have mistakes? Do we have shortcomings? A lot. Are we trying to make it more perfect every day? Certainly.
Absolutely. Well, nobody's perfect, but it's just about the journey, right?
Yeah.
Indeed. Bahadir, when you're looking at the growth plans for Airalo in 2023, what would you say that the most focus areas are?
I think, and I was just talking to our VP of product about this. I think the most important thing we need to do before even growing further is to make eSIMs a more understandable process for the customers. There is still a level of complication to eSIMs. My mother has difficulty, but she doesn't have difficulty inserting a SIM card in her phone, but she has difficulty trying to understand how an eSIM works and how she would install it. I think to realize our, just like the one I mentioned, operation stability, I think we still have a couple of phases of operation stability where we really want to feel that, okay, the instructions couldn't be more clear. We have made it much easier for people to use an eSIM. Then we wanna really grow, and we really wanna tell the world that Airalo exists, that there's an alternative out there that will give them a peace of mind. But I think the team's joint understanding is that there are still imperfections that we need to work on before going into even a bigger phase of telling the world that we exist. Because we have one chance to have a user that never heard about eSIMs, that never used an eSIM, to install their first eSIM on Airalo. We did make a survey, and 85% said their first eSIM experience was on Airalo. That's a big number. We are world's gateway to eSIM today. When somebody hears about an eSIM, there's a huge chance Airalo is their first app that they are using. So we have a big responsibility to make the process as seamless as possible for that very first user who has never used an eSIM. And I think I'm going to be comfortable when my mother easily installs an eSIM. Then I will have that feeling, okay, we can go ahead. Let's grow like crazy at this point because we have solved the first problem. So yeah, that's how I see growth. First, make your product much better, then have the confidence to shout to another 10 million people that they can use this.
Okay. And would you say that this is the biggest challenge right now?
I would say eSIM awareness is the biggest challenge. Not just the technical side. There are things carriers should be doing on their side. There are things the hardware device manufacturers have to be doing. I'll be honest, Apple is a much smoother process than Android at the moment. So Apple has definitely invested more in this. So we are hoping Androids also become as smooth as Apple currently is. But besides all this, there is still an awareness phase, and I think that is what needs to be done, and that takes a lot of efforts, not just Airalo, but from telcos, from the industry players. That eSIM is actually a thing. When I go out there and ask 10 people, I know that 7 out of 10 will have no idea what an eSIM is. They've never heard about it. They have never used it. So there is still this educational awareness phase. I will say that's the biggest blocker for the mainstream adoption.
Okay. Well, to be fairly honest with you, I'm not sure if it's that vital to use your service to fully understand the eSIM. Would you say it is?
Not to use my service. I'm talking growth. For the
Okay.
growth of the
Yeah.
whole eSIM concept itself, we need
Okay.
more awareness. So once you are at Airalo, you know what you are gonna do. You know exactly what to do because you already know eSIM. So not for our maybe growth as Airalo, it's not a blocker. The awareness is not a blocker because you already know it and you are here. But I was mentioning eSIM as a concept to grow. There needs to be more education, more awareness, and it takes time, but it's happening. I remember when we first started, we were targeting on social media people with eSIM capable phones. I would see an audience size of 20 million. Today, you can see an audience size of 400 million probably only on Facebook. So it's definitely getting bigger. More and more eSIM phones are out there. So yeah, it's happening.
Well, yeah, it's a huge difference, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think Airalo is right now present in 190 plus countries, right? And I think there's 195 countries in the world in total. So you're almost everywhere. And I'm wondering, were there any legal challenges connected to being in so many countries? And, operational wise, was it difficult to organize?
There are some. We love challenges. We love these operational challenges because once you solve them, it actually becomes a moat protecting your business. So we like to take on these challenges. There are countries where eKYC is required. So we need to have eKYC systems in place. We cannot sell every eSIM straightforward. Some of them needs, documentation before we sell them. Some countries say you cannot sell an eSIM, a user, more than 3 eSIMs. All right, now that's a new challenge. So basically, Barbara cannot have access to more than 3 eSIMs in this certain country. We've never solved this before. We used to do her eKYC, but we never limited the amount of eSIMs she can get, right? So these type of challenges, these type of know your customer challenges come up. We solve them one by one, patiently, country by country sometimes. Not, Georgia might have a different request than Maldives. Maldives might have a different need than South Korea. So there is definitely a beautiful mess, I say, going behind the scenes. But yeah, we are solving them. And there are countries where we get a license because the source connectivity that we are using comes from that country's telecom company, and the regulator basically says, if you are using that as your source, you need to have a license in this country. We are also, overcoming these challenges. So yes, the challenges are there, but yeah, we love a challenge. I love regulatory challenges. I love the eKYC challenges because every single one of them, when they are solved, it becomes to your advantage.
Okay, well, that's true, definitely. And currently, you are providing services via mobile providers, right?
Yeah.
That's the core of the product. Do you think it is possible to have a global network without use of mobile providers?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what might happen 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later. I know there are attempts like Starlink or all these other things that we are seeing from the satellite. But when I talk to people from industry, I see that they actually still kind of have to work shoulder to shoulder with mobile operators in some instances. So I'm not really an expert there, but for the foreseeable future, I think we will get our connectivity from mobile operators. If there's an alternative, I really don't know at this point.
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting conversation, with Starlink as well appearing. But I think it's the sound of the future in a way.
Yeah. But then you have the land receivers.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of complication, with all these, satellite networks and everything. I don't think it's as smooth as what a mobile provider provides today. But again, I am no expert there. So who knows what happens in the next 20, 30 years.
No, absolutely. And mobile providers have been there for a long time, so they know very well the business, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely. Okay, and moving a little bit into the industry trends, let's say. What do you think will be the biggest trends in the upcoming year in your industry?
Well, I like to think it's gonna be eSIMs, but I'm, there are a lot of conversations, and I can talk about eSIMs in that sense. I think eSIMs are going to get really, really big, and the telcos, by the way, was very skeptical for a long time. I think they've delayed their digital transformation to provide eSIMs to their customers. And I think some of them are really feeling the pain of this because iPhone 14 in the United States just announced that it's eSIM only.
Yeah.
And I talk to big telcos sometimes, and I'm surprised that they are not even eSIM ready. And now there are 50 million phones out there that don't accept your physical SIM card anymore. And as you know, some of the biggest telcos in the world are not ready for this journey. I don't know why they delayed it. I don't know what was the group think there. Who knows? But I think eSIMs are gonna get really big. You will start getting more and more your prepaid subscription, your postpaid subscription, locally through eSIMs. And I see telcos. And I assure you, telcos wouldn't want that adoption to be so fast, but Apple is pushing them. Apple basically say, no more SIM card trace for you. So go. And now everybody feels the rush to go and become eSIM ready. And I think that's going to be huge in the next couple of years. We are going to see an amazing change from physical SIM cards to eSIMs. That's happening.
Yes, and when you look at it from this perspective, it's also much more convenient. So I think it's natural for users to stop using this physical cards.
It's not always very convenient for the telco itself, I'll be honest.
Yes, that's true.
Locally. But I think they will adapt in their own ways. I think they will still find meaningful ways to make eSIM an important part of their business flow. The first reaction was fear, was skepticism 3 years ago, but I think they are also constantly trying to understand. Okay, so this is happening. How do we play this? I think the mindset is now changing from let's stop this to okay, this is happening. Let's find the best way to work with this now. But it's a very natural progress. This is how it happens with everything, right? So, and it's happening. It's happening already. 260, I think, was the number of mobile operators are eSIM ready now. When you think about there are 600 telcos out there, so there's still a long way to go. Many of them are not eSIM ready. But again, 3 years ago, 20 of them was eSIM ready. So they are adopting and the industry is understanding the importance of this. Okay,
so do you believe that will be the biggest change that the industry will have to respond in upcoming years?
It's definitely an interesting change because it's something. It's like a 25-year, probably old, traditional system changing, right? And it's changing just like this. So I think it's going to be a very impactful change. Again, I'm not in the best position to say if that's going to be the biggest change. People are talking about 5G, people are talking about a lot of things. So I don't have the best expertise to say that is going to be the biggest change, but I know eSIMs are going to be a very interesting change because you are changing something the way that you've been doing it for the last 20, 25 years. It's a very dramatic change. Like your stores, you were the gatekeeper for connectivity. Your stores was the gatekeeper for connectivity. I had to actually go to a new store to change my line, all these things. And suddenly now it's all here. That has never been the case. For the first time, this is the case. Like 2 telcos are now in front of me. So it's a very interesting change for them to also adopt. So I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's definitely one of the most interesting ones.
Okay. So how do you think how important it is to do the digital acceleration the industry, in the
I
company?
think it's a no-brainer. Like I don't know anyone in the world who will say digital transformation. Who needs this, right? I think any company who doesn't respect change is going to fail eventually. I mean, that's where groupthink has always come from. Like when you look at those big companies that actually didn't see the change because they were in such a comfortable, such an industry leading position back in the day. I think they took things for granted, but that's not how it's happening right now. Companies are becoming efficient. Like as a startup, I look at some of the implementations in the company that my co-founder is patiently leading internally. Some of the changes, some of the digital transformation efforts, and it brings incredible efficiency. And this is the main difference actually. You being incredibly efficient, incrementally increasing your efficiency on a daily basis, and then your competitor still sending each other like paper memos around the office. Right? I mean, this is an exaggeration, but you get my point, right? I mean, this is what every corporate out there is competing with. As a startup, we get things done under sometimes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And because we are so well structured internally, the information flow, the cross-departmental information flow is so beautiful. When a project goes live, instantly, because we are using all these beautiful channels like Slack, like Notion, all these collaboration tools are in place. Everyone is so much and so beautifully aware of everything that is going on in the company, right? This is what you are against as a corporate. These non-stop, lively, fresh way of doing things, versus sometimes you talk to corporates, and I'm surprised when I talk to big businesses sometimes. They don't know what's happening within their company. Like, oh, really? Are we doing this? Like, I hear things like this sometimes. How do you not know what's happening in your company? When did you guys become so disconnected internally that you are not aware of some of the developments that's happening in your company? There's a marketing campaign, the support doesn't know it's happening. Or there's a problem with engineering, the support has no idea. So everyone is trying to figure out why this is happening, because the departments are so disconnected. The digital transformation that actually binds them beautifully didn't happen. You see almost like everyone just doing their thing separately. So I think efficiency will win. But again, this is a no-brainer. I'm not giving the word secret right now. Anyone who doesn't see this, anyone who doesn't see how valuable it is to have this digital transformation for better efficiency, whether it's for employees internally, whether it's your relation with suppliers, whether it's how you treat your customers, using tools, maybe more artificial intelligence, maybe processes in the customer support department which actually speeds up things. And solves a couple of problems much faster than a human does, as long as it's a meaningful implementation. I think this is what every company is competing out there: efficiency versus not efficiency, and that makes all the difference. The one who changes fast, the one who adapts, that has to win. Like there is no other way. There is no miraculous way where the lazy ones that are not doing anything and just going with their old ways are gonna be doing what they do forever. Maybe another 5 years, but the erosion is going to happen slowly but surely, and nobody will see it coming. And then there will be a point where we're like, okay, we messed up. Probably 5 years ago we messed up, and the result is now. We didn't see the result 1 month later after messing up, or 2 months later, but the result is here now, because it happens, that erosion really happens slowly, and you have to be on top of it from day one. Efficiency. I think that's why transformation is very important.
Okay, and when you're looking at it, and what would you say that the biggest blockers over there are? I think you mentioned already that staying disconnected within under your own roof is probably one of the blockers. But what else? Yeah,
I think I'll be honest, and I've seen this with some companies. I think there are. It all comes down to people, and I think there has to sometimes be some people that makes that final call. Uh, too many collective meetings, in my opinion, end up with no results. I think there has to be sometimes a visionary that makes the call, but that doesn't have to be the founder or anyone. Someone who trusts in that department, should make this call that we need this. I think I think the blocker is people. And there are people who oppose change. There are people who have been in their, comfortable seats for the last 20, 25 years in big corporates. And they may be resisting the change. They might think that's a threat, and it's a very understandable, reaction, right? Anything that feels like a threat to your personal existence, it's a very natural reaction. But I think if the company can assure people that this is not a threat to anyone, this maybe will change, changing places of you personally. Maybe you will not be in this position anymore because this change is happening, but we will utilize your skills here or here or here. So it doesn't have to be a sum-zero game. It doesn't have to be where people resist the change because they think their existence is in threat. If they could feel that this company is making changes, but it will affect also me in a good way in the long game. If that becomes the understanding within the company, I think changes happen faster. If people take every change a personal threat, I think that really slows things down. So I think it comes down to people, but that's one man's opinion. At least one man's observation. It comes down to people. People have to be on board with the change, and there has to be someone eventually who calls the shots. We are doing this. We are doing this. We are doing this. Of course, after collecting all the feedback.
Okay, and do you think it's natural for people to be slightly scared of changes?
It's very natural. My co-founder understands human psychology very well, and he will definitely have a much better, a more, I will say a very, very, very content reply for this, because he really words these very well. But I think it is very natural. I think as human beings, we are always feeling threats, whether it's in our personal life, even if nothing is there, but we are always feeling threats, whether it's in our personal lives or business lives. It might come down to many reasons. It might be because it might be triggering something we experienced in the past. It might be triggering that happened to us, and this situation resembles the situation that we haven't thought about for a very long time, but it actually is very similar. So again, I think it really comes down to the human element, and I think that's why it's very important to do unto all men as you would wish to have done unto you. If people feel good, if people feel safe, if people see that the change is not against them, the change is for us, so that this is going to take us to the next level, I think that makes all the difference. I recently heard from one founder. He said, we don't do employee reviews in the company. We do shareholder meetings. When we talk to every employee in the company, we call them shareholders. And when they really understand they are shareholder in the company, then they don't feel the same anxiety, because then everybody becomes more on board, thinking that, okay, this is my company. I have a stake in this. What will be the best position going forward for the company and not me? When people start thinking this way, when they start thinking as a shareholder instead of employees that have this feeling of threat, and maybe because the company couldn't make them feel safe, because it's also company's fault, maybe they didn't feel safe enough, then the resistance starts, right? So I think the best thing a company can do is, guys, and I really mean this, we are in this together. We will mess up together. We will be successful together. But this is a change that needs to happen. So let's all think like shareholders. So yeah, if the company makes them feel safe, makes them feel like they are part of something big, and their position is not vulnerable and it's not shaky, we are in this together, man, you can you can change the world. Now I can say it, like, you can, if you have such believers that stop feeling that they are constantly being threatened, but they are actually feeling the same vision towards the same goal, you can do anything. Like, give me 10 people like this, as they say, like, I can do anything. I think that's a very valuable bonding. That's a very valuable power. But yeah, I think I'm just now going sideways. So let's go back to.
No, absolutely, it's very, very interesting, and I think the sense of ownership that you're also bringing up here is indeed the key, because you start
Makes all the
thinking as a collective
It makes
body.
all the difference. It makes all the difference. You should be very scared when people stop challenging you.
Mm-hmm.
You should be very scared. Like, if you're most vocal, some of your smart people start saying yes to everything, then I think it's a very scary for any company to be in. And I think if you start having yes men in the company because they can't confront you anymore, if you start having, as they say, CYA employees, if you start having them, I think that's a very scary place to be in any company. So you should be very worried if people stop being vocal and just start saying yes to everything. That I guess that's how quiet quitting, as they say, starts. People just do their bare minimum eventually. They lose the sense of ownership. They lose that excitement because they feel like, they are not taking initiatives anymore. They are not being empowered anymore, and they are just executing orders. I think that's a very slippery slope for any company. But if you could empower them and enable them and say, let's mess up together, let's be successful together. We'll do our best. That's a good thing. We'll do our best. Almost like a study group working towards the same goal. We pass the test or not doesn't matter, but we are gonna enjoy this so much. We are gonna have our pizzas and our colas, and this process itself, like a study group, studying like a study group. I think that's a really powerful way of working within your company, where everyone has ownership and they just love what they are doing. It's really important. Again, these are things that all of us know, but sometimes really hard to execute.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's worth speaking them out loud. But Bahadir, I think we will have time for one last question, because I really want to ask you that last one, because I'm super curious. If you would have a magic wand and you could cast a spell that allowed you to provide education on one specific topic to all 12 years old, what would it be?
If I could have a magic wand and educate 12-year-olds about one thing, I think it would be selfless communication. I think that's a trait that we miss, and I think that's a very important one. When we argue or when we try to communicate with each other, count how many times you say I. There's so much I in everything we do and we say. And it's almost like every one of us is just waiting for each other's turn to speak up, because we are always trying to prove something in many conversations. And I think communication is important, but more than communication, I think selfless communication, a communication with compassion. This is about Barbara right now. Let me hear what she's trying to say. I think that's such an important trait, but I think we miss this so much. We communicate very professionally, by the way. Everyone, because now everyone is going through these self-development routines and everyone is just constantly self-development. Everyone now knows how to talk. The communication style is perfect. Everyone knows how to talk professionally with the right words. But I think not everyone knows how to communicate selflessly. I'm also guilty of that. Just count how many times you say I. I think that I will teach. I think that will make the world definitely a much better place if you could communicate selflessly with compassion. Really, really, really understand ourselves without trying to make even 1 second of that conversation about ourselves. This conversation, if it's about Barbara, let's make it all about Barbara, because she wants to be heard. And I think that's a very big problem. We don't hear each other anymore. So yeah, selfless communication would be my magic wand.
Okay, well, I think that's a really great idea, and I truly hope that here we managed to do the conversation about Airalo and about you, Bahadir.
And
So
I truly hope you enjoyed this conversation and
I
everyone
did a
listening
lot.
enjoyed.
I
Thank you.
did a
Thanks
lot.
for,
Truly, it was truly fascinating. Thank you very much for the conversation today.
thank you,
And
Barbara.
well, thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for the next episodes.
I wish an amazing day for everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you
guys.
very much. Bye bye, Bahadir.